Nintendo, by the end of the 8-bit era in the late 80s or early 90s, was at the top of the industry and literally had little to no competition from other video game producers. Well, they had competition, but Nintendo did not take any of it seriously and thought, how cute. Then a company called Sega came in and started an advertising campaign taking down Nintendo a couple of pegs by saying that Sega can do what Nintendo don't. So in order for Sega to get their foot in the 16-bit console market and to end Nintendo dominance after the recent release of Super Mario Bros. 3, the best-selling game ever at that point, they decided to design a mascot that could demonstrate the power of the new Sega Genesis or Mega Drive outside the US. The company had an internal contest to see who and what the flagship mascot and game would be. A duo, programmer Yuji Naka and character designer Naoto Oshima, developed the character, a teal hedgehog named Sonic, whose color matched the Sega logo at the time, whose shoes were inspired by the cover of Michael Jackson's Bad album, but were red and white. He can run and curl up into a ball, going into a tube-like tunnel, and he can also go up curves or loops. And a third member of Sonic's Holy Trinity, Hirokazu Yasuhara, was responsible for Sonic's unique level design. Sonic was designed to encompass the rebellious 90s kid, wisecracking, cool, can-do attitude, and loves chili dogs. Hence, the video game Sonic the Hedgehog was born, and launched as a pack-in with the Genesis to critical acclaim and high sales, gaining 65% of the market share from Nintendo, and grew exponentially in the first 4 years. My initial experience with Sega and Sonic started by seeing all the Sega commercials dissing on Nintendo, telling kids the Genesis was better than the Super Nintendo, and then, when I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, saw that my neighbor, who was also my age and also owned an NES like I did, instead got a Genesis, whereas I had a Super NES, and I remember him and his buddy and me were playing Sonic the Hedgehog at his house. This was the first time I ever saw the gameplay, and I remember them making fun of me because I had the lamer Super Nintendo with slow-ass Mario. That didn't age well now, did it? But going back, despite the teasing, I was impressed and wanted to play more of it, but my neighbor and his friend wouldn't let me. At the same time, mid to late 1993, Sonic the Hedgehog launched 2 cartoon series at the same time. One was a wacky series called The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, starring Sonic and Tails, his younger two-tailed fox sidekick, who went on adventures while bumping into the bumbling Dr. Robotnik and his minions. Dr. Robotnik is Sonic's arch-enemy, who was designed to resemble President Teddy Roosevelt. The show was typical for a children's cartoon entertainment, but the second Sonic series, which was the one I really liked and grasped onto, this one was a shorter series but was better written, and that aired on ABC on Channel 7 on Saturday mornings. This one was called Sonic the Hedgehog, but was also known as Sad AM. This series was not wacky, but a more serious written story about Sonic, Tails, and other animal characters as freedom fighters, hiding in the forest from Dr. Robotnik and his Robotropolis machines. Dr. Robotnik in this series is not bumbling, but very menacing. If any of the animals are caught, they are roboticized, whereas they are turned into mindless, droned robots. Kind of like being assimilated by the Borg in Star Trek The Next Generation. You know, the loss of free will and individuality. The thing that connected both cartoons was that Sonic was voiced by Jaleel White, who was simultaneously playing Steve Urkel at the same time on the TGIF's family sitcom Family Matters. I remember they showed a preview of Sonic during either Family Matters or Step by Step that night on TGIF, the night before the first episode aired that Saturday morning. The Sad AM Sonic the Hedgehog series was cancelled after 2 seasons, but it continued to drive my interest in Sonic. But it wasn't really until I saw a commercial for Sonic and Knuckles that I wanted to get a Genesis in late 1994. I went to Funkoland with my folks and managed to play the first Sonic the Hedgehog there. I was instantly impressed and enamored and wanted the system right away. My parents were going through extreme financial and emotional hardship at this time, but they managed to get me the Genesis after I asked for it for Christmas like 1,000 times already. That Christmas that year was my favorite as a result, and I am most grateful because of my parents' circumstances and the fact that we were all happier in the household as a result of that. I got the later model Genesis that was packed with Sonic 2, and my parents bought me Sonic 3 as well. It was a great Christmas, to me playing the coolest game on the market in my mind. So my initial Sonic experience started with Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, and I rented Sonic and Knuckles to get the full Sonic 3 experience, since Sonic and Knuckles is basically the second half of Sonic 3. Sonic 2 was a game that launched a year and a half after Sonic the Hedgehog. It was very similar in structure to the first game, with bass player Masato Nakamura of the band Dreams Come True returning to provide the iconic Sonic theme and music. Unlike the first game, you can play with Tails following you around in various zones that have 2 acts instead of 3, adding more types of zones and twice the size of the original, including Chemical Plant, Oil Ocean, and the first Death Egg Zone, with an epic final showdown in outer space. Sonic 3 launched about a year and a few months later in early '94 and introduced the character of Knuckles, the red echidna who hinders Sonic's progress in pursuing Robotnik in Knuckles' home of Angel Island. Sonic's sprite is updated, giving him a slightly cooler look, with Tails returning and the 2 act zones making a comeback. The levels are even longer than Sonic 2 this time, and the original composer Nakamura did not return, so Sega worked with some in-house musicians and some obscure pop musical artists who happens to be a thriller and bad at the same time. Sonic 3 was great, but I could not complete it because I got stuck in the 4th zone, Carnival Night Zone. In the second act, there is a platform that moves as you jump and land on it. The game and its instructions fails to tell you that all you need to do is press up and down on the directional pads to move the platform up and down, so I was stuck there for years. Sonic 3 ends with Launch Base Zone and you fight Robotnik, but only feels like half a game with only 6 zones, 2 acts each. That's because the vision for Sonic 3 was too big for the hardware and the time constraints also a factor, so they released the remaining zones in the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge. That would include lock-on technology, basically opening a top hatch on the cartridge allowing you to insert either the Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 cartridge. Sonic & Knuckles was basically supposed to be the second half of Sonic 3, so the last 6 zones, or last 7 or 8 zones. For Sonic 2, you would play the game as Knuckles with no other changes. But when you lock on Sonic 3 to Sonic & Knuckles, however, it allows players to play the entire game of Sonic 3 as originally envisioned with all the zones available, and you can also play as Knuckles the Echidna, who also can have his own little story arc, and he has his own little secret passages that only he can access, which makes Sonic 3 even more replayable with Sonic & Knuckles. The music changed because the bad and thriller musician was having some legal difficulties at this time, so Sega replaced some of the Sonic 3 tracks that he did with new music done in-house. So completing the trilogy, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is to this day my favorite Sonic game and the most nostalgic for me, as I was soon approaching adolescence shortly thereafter. After owning the Genesis for less than a year, the system broke on me, basically freezing and crashing shortly after booting the system. Therefore, I couldn't play Sonic games anymore for quite a while. So years went by where I continued to play Nintendo with the Nintendo 64 and eventually the GameCube. The early aughts were here. I was in high school. I was approaching senior year in high school. I meet one of my friends at a church youth group who brought his Dreamcast with the 3D Sonic Adventure. Well, going back to my friend, he was there and he was playing it alone. No one was playing it with him. So I went and I talked to him. And I shared some of my Sonic and Sega experience, and hence my interest in Sonic rekindled. GameStop, which used to be Funkoland, was selling old systems, and since I was working at that point, I was able to go and buy a used first-gen Sega Genesis with a copy of the first Sonic the Hedgehog, which I still have not played fully. The game had the iconic first stage Green Hill Zone, but as you play the game, it becomes more focused on platforming and less on speed, and it gets really tough. I still prefer 2, 3, and Knuckles though. Shortly thereafter, I started college, and Sega, understanding this, decided to re-release the classic games. The original Sonic Adventure, and a Gems collection which has the obscure Sonic CD, a Sonic game with a time travel mechanic showing good or bad futures, the present, and the past. Let's just say the bad futures had the better music and the cooler backdrop. Also, the anime Sonic X came out at that same time too, that followed the Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 storylines with Chaos and Shadow and the Ultimate Lifeform. I played the Sonic Adventure games on the GameCube and loved both games. Both games you played as multiple characters who had their own story arcs, which would later converge into a final chapter. You played as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, who does treasure hunting, Chaos Emeralds, Amy Rose being pursued by some big evil robot, Big the Cat, a big cat who likes to fish, who is pursuing his friend Froggy, And E-102 Gamma, a robot of Robotnik, or Dr. Eggman as Sonic calls him, was a conflict of the human heart when he makes friends with Amy Rose despite being a robot and ultimately turns against his master. This game initially released in 1998 on the Sega Dreamcast, and was Sonic's introduction to 3D platforming as a result of Nintendo with the Super Mario 64. I did not own Sonic Adventure until it was re-released as the DX Director's Cut on the GameCube, so that was the version that I played. Sonic Adventure maintained high-speed running up loops and curves to platforming, with the homing attack pretty standard at this time. The levels were single-act zones that ended at a goal instead of a boss fight, and like Mario 64, the town station square acts as a hub to enter zones unlike the previous 2D games. The game was impressive and was followed by a sequel, Sonic Adventure 2, that followed a similar zone format but was more linear and story-based that did not have a hub world. There were two campaigns. There was the Good Guy campaign featuring Sonic, who had the usual high-speed levels, Tails, whose tornado airplane transforms into a mech and kind of has shmup or shoot 'em up like levels, and Knuckles continues his treasure hunting style levels, hunting for Chaos Emeralds. Chaos Emeralds are those little jewels that you collect in all the Sonic games that initially, if you collect all 7, allows you to turn into Super Sonic or Super Saiyan Sonic, since they kind of stole from Dragon Ball. Well, also, besides a Good Guy campaign, there was also a Bad Guy campaign featuring Shadow the Hedgehog in his debut for Speed, a rival to Sonic. Robotnik himself is a playable character, which was unheard of because he's the arch villain of the Sonic series. And he's basically Tails' rival as a fellow shoot-'em-upper. And then you have a new character, Rouge the Bat, a rival treasure hunter to Knuckles. So she has all the same abilities as Knuckles. She can glide and she can, climb walls and stuff. Both adventure games converge after you complete all the stories, and a final chapter is unlocked where you have your final fight with the main villain of the games, whether it be Chaos or the Ultimate Life Form. In other words, a smooth transition to 3D, but not quite what the 2D Genesis games provided. Sonic continues to this very day and is almost as big as Super Mario when it comes to the sheer amount of content. A lot of Sonic games have been made since I became an adult, from Sonic Heroes, where you play as 3 characters at once instead of 1 or 2, all the way to the upcoming Sonic Zap game that is going to be coming out in 2022, which a lot of fans have ascertained it is called Sonic Rangers. Ever since the adventure games, Sonic games have been hit or miss, with some hitting it out of the park like Sonic Mania, to pretty good ones like Sonic Generations and Colors, to mediocre ones like Sonic Forces or Sonic Unleashed, or to downright unplayable ones like Sonic 2006. I have not even begun to cover all the Sonic games because I haven't even played them all, and there's so many of them it is hard to keep up at times. If you are new to the franchise, I would recommend starting where I started, and that is with the Sega Genesis games, Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. And then play the 2 3D Sonic Adventure titles, and then you as an individual can take it from there wherever you want to go, whether it be 2D or 3D going forward. Whether it would be 2D or 3D, console or handheld, Sonic or Knuckles, this series provides an excellent and very cool alternative to Super Mario and Nintendo that adds faster gameplay, multiple platforming paths in each level, unique characters with unique abilities, and some unforgettable music with a more pop-rock focus than the more jazzy ragtime Mario melodies. From the 2D games, to several animated series, an OVA featuring Metal Sonic from Sonic CD, to the 3D games, and to the current live-action movie and its upcoming sequel, Sega has truly created a remarkable and relatable mascot that has managed to drain some of the hubris from Nintendo and give players more variety and more ways to have fun. And fun is why we play video games in the first place. Happy 30th birthday, Sonic, and thank you, Sega and Nintendo, for the great childhood memories. If you like this video, please check out my other videos and subscribe. I recently did a Super Mario video, and I do movie and TV reviews as well. Please hit the bell for notifications and leave a comment sharing your personal experience with Sonic or Sega in general. Okay, I'd like to hang, but Napoleon's got a juice. Later.